You got to carry the weight. And if you want to carry the weight, it's all good. You can start taking home a couple kids to your homes. It's all good. You can do it. 7 reasons. I'm going to have to zoom through these so we can get through this. 7 reasons why we need parents. Let me give you a couple of them real quick. First reason is decreasing resources. I'm already hearing about what's going on, what your governor's doing with the educational cuts here. It's happening all over the country. The economy's going down. Resources are going down. So they've got to cut the budget across the board. Education is no longer exempt. You used to be able to go before your legislators, before your politicians, and say, we need a 2% raise for the children. Doesn't work anymore. They're cutting all over the place. We need parents because of decreasing cuts. We need parents because of increasing performance goals. At the same time they're decreasing your budget, they're increasing what on you is it? That's right. They're telling you, we can't give you all this money, but you got to do more. And we're going to hold you accountable for it. Come out of the educational world and you're in the factory now. And now you're working for Ford, GM, Chrysler, whoever. And they come to you as a union or what have you and say, look, 15% cuts across the board. Everybody's not happy about that. However, we ain't through. We need the production of these vehicles to increase by 15%. And you're saying, what? You cutting overtime, you cutting 15%, and you want me to make better cars and more cars? That's what they're saying to you all. You've got to get parents involved in this solution. They have to be. College readiness, the score, the max you can get on the ACT is 36. The average score in Michigan is 19.7. I don't know what it is in Georgia or Atlanta, but you got to get at least a 21 just to get accepted if you really want to get into a good school. You need parents to make that stuff happen. Pain and pleasure. Right now, the federal government is finding ways to give you carrots for doing well and hitting you with a stick when you don't. Race to the Top is all about multiplying good schools. And those schools that are not good, we're getting rid of you. That's what Race to the Top boils down to. That's what AYP was leading us to. And it's coming even stronger now as you read the information. You got to have parents. For students, we need parents because they've got to do what you all were talking about. Kids have got to learn about relationship skills, work ethics, and hygiene at home. I mean, how can you do what you do and still talk to a kid like, baby, you need to get some deodorant, baby. Have you put on some deodorant? I don't say it to be funny, but is it just where I go where young kids don't really understand personal hygiene? Young ladies, can you imagine, sir, having to talk to some of the young ladies in your class about those times in their lives where they're maturing and they need a woman to talk to them? That's a tough conversation. Or ladies having to talk to young men who are going through puberty and adolescence, and it's a personal conversation for a dad or a grandfather or somebody else, but as a teacher, you're like, somebody needs to talk to you. I kid you not. I was hired to do a training for young men. We have a program called Future Men that we had to create because I was continuously being called to come in and do workshops with young men. This one particular workshop just grieved me because what they wanted us to do is talk to young men about hygiene, but they needed us to talk to young men about going to the bathroom. Because the young boys were going to the bathroom and just sitting down. They wouldn't stand up and use the stalls. They wouldn't stand up and use the stalls. And you already know why that is, don't you? They just had never seen a man. They had not been in an environment where a man did what he did. It was always mom, it was always grandma, it was always auntie.
I'm laughing because I have a son and he's 23 now, and I potty trained him, and he went to the bathroom, sit down, and went over to my parents' house one day, and my dad was like, "What?
Yeah,
Why
yeah,
you going
yeah. Right. And it's just you don't think it.
He called him before.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I was laughing.
Yeah. It's real. It happened. That's supposed to happen in the family. You can't take out of your budget to call me to come in. I mean, don't you want to hire me to come in and work with your parents and work with educational issues? Yeah. You can't come out of your budget to have me come in and teach young boys to go to the bathroom. But this is real. We need parents doing that. Character development. Parents need to be talking about home life is where kids learn thou shall and thou shall not. Kids are supposed to learn that when they step in front of an adult, when they see the authority figure, that this is how you respond to an authority figure. They don't call you by your first name. You don't call call me, hey, Carlos, do we have homework today? No. My name is Mr. Johnson. And I'm not saying that because I'm big and bad, but there are some life lessons in children learning, right? So that happens at home. We need parents for that. And here's the evidence. Here's the critical evidence. We need parents because there's some critical evidence. Come on now, where's my slide? There we are. Here's evidence that demands a verdict, and I'm going to run through some of this, but this is all research-based. Karen Mapp, Ann Henderson, Joyce Epstein. I like to throw myself in the room with them, but I could only be in a room with them, but these folk have been researching parental involvement for 40 years. Longitudinal studies. Here's the evidence. In schools where teachers reported high levels of outreach to parents, test scores grew at a rate of 40%. You really want to get to test scores? I know we talk about traditional things, but just real easy is to get parents involved in that process. You can change your test scores right there. Right there. But what's uncomfortable is a lot of folk don't like getting out of the classroom and engaging with parents. And that's not a knock, that's just a reality. Schools, high-performing schools that have a direct link to parents, and they're in their homes, not necessarily physically, but we're so close that I know about your home and vice versa, they see it in test scores. Students with highly involved parents were more likely to gain in both reading and math. Everybody wants students to gain in reading and math. Now here's the evidence that was really interesting after this study. Students from lower income families made fewer gains than students from higher income families, no matter how involved the families. No matter how involved families got, students from high-income families made greater gains than students from lower-income families. But look at the rest of that. However, there still was some measurable increase when parents got involved. And the only reason why that is, from a higher income standpoint, is that those with higher incomes have the ability to give kids even greater exposure. When you look at standardized testing, a lot of the questions are exposure-based issues. They've seen what's on the test. I mean, they've literally been to a place and they've experienced that. So when they look at the question and read the question, they don't revert to just data they read in the book. They're like, oh, we were there last summer. The Grand Canyon, oh, we were there last summer. I know exactly what he's talking about. The South Rim. If you ever been to the Grand Canyon, you know what I'm talking about. So, I mean, does parental involvement help both lower and higher income kids? Yes, at different levels, but even lower income children benefit from parental involvement. Family's income level did not affect its level of involvement. No longer the data is in. No longer can poor neighborhoods say that parents can't have an effect. They can have a measurable effect on their child's income. We now possess enough data to answer the who and the why. We've got enough data now. We don't have to ask anymore who needs parents. Do we have to ask that question anymore? Don't we need parents? Now, the only way a school in the 21st century can say we don't need you parents is if you're a school that got so many resources that you literally can say, just drop that little baby off right here. We'll take them from 7:30, feed them breakfast, we'll educate them all day. Our RTI system is the bomb. If your child is 3-4 years behind, we've got a push in, pull out method that will, in 1 year, we'll give them 3 years gain. Can you say that? Doesn't work that way. Then you can say that even after school, we got an after school program that is the bomb. For men, we've got the Smart Men program. The Smart Men program will take young boys. I just gave you a program right there, Don. We got the Smart Men program that will just, any young boy who's struggling in math, don't even worry about it. You just drop your son off at this school. Now, if you don't have the resources to do that, we already know what the data says. We need parents. We got to have them. And we know why we got to have them, because if we don't get them, then the burden falls on us. The money's not there anymore. The demands are much higher. The United States now is 17th, 14th, and 25th on a global scale of competition educationally. We're way behind. Finland is taking our educational lunch. A little small little country, Finland, is kicking it. I mean, the educational folk are upset. Secretary Arne Duncan was on the news last night just talking about what kind of trouble we are educationally as we compete globally. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. Every 3 years, we go over to to Asia to do a teacher swap. Well, what we do is, what class do you teach? English? I should have known it was English. As soon as she even said English with, make me feel like I'm speaking foreign. So we take English teachers like yourself. We swap you. You do 2 years in Japan, and we take teachers from there to do 2 years instead at your school. It's a teacher training program where it's just a swap for 2 years. When we're there, we're spending a month, and it blows my mind every time I'm there. I don't know if anyone is familiar with the Asian culture, but let me just give you an insight on how they do education. They start at 7:30. 7:30 they start. And they start, if you want to come early, you can do exercise, but they start learning at 7:30. They go to 5:30. They go home, and guess what happens at 6? At 6 p.m. they come back. They come back to school, not because they got in trouble, not because it's an after-school program, but they come back to what they call cram school. They go to cram school from 6 to 9. Home for dinner, a little family time, whatever's left, sleep, and the game starts all over again. And they do that 11 months out of the year. And nobody's complaining. You take a kid like that and drop him in any school in America, poor, rich, whatever, and they're blowing out the standards because they're looking at 7:30. We get out at what? We get out at what time? At 3 o'clock? They are blowing this away. Cram school is crazy. That's like, is anybody taking a class online, a course online where you have to take like 2 or 3 classes over the summer and you do it all online? And I thought online learning was one of those like, oh, I got this. I can do this when I want to. Oh my goodness. I mean, this is education on steroids. Right. Well, you know exactly. That's right. And it's driving you crazy. That's probably why you just have to just. There you go. I know. I had hair before I went to school online.